Why? Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dictatorship, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order as the United Mexican States. Now, last video, we had a little crisis pop up over in Puebla. Actually, we got a little one of these little orders to pop up. Puebla should be the last state in the Republic to fall into chaos. Positioned within Mexico's stable core, its capital's grid of colonial streets is a living monument to rationale and prosperity. But fall it has. The Cuban Revolution energized idealistic students, triggering waves of protest and social unrest. Two governors failed to calm the state, so President Lopez Mateos turned to General Nava Castillo. The new governor's despotic approach has so far backfired. The militarization of state government alienated the PRI's traditional supporters, and a deeply unpopular pasteurization laws rallied dairy farmers against state authority. As a broad coalition of working class, middle class, and student shock groups joined to back the farmers, Mexico's government calls upon its military to answer. The forces of Sedena and Samar mobilized to retake this former bastion of stability. For if it is lost forever, the federal district could follow. And that would be no bueno. In the dancing campfire, like Arturo Gamiz marveled at what Salvador Gaitan's column had begun. Teacher's soft hands had grown rigid of calluses, those of the peasant held rifles, with the same familiarity that they once handled hoes. A layer of thick dust was their uniform. Their faces underneath, glad as they were to see the GPG comrades after months of fighting the Ibarra Caudillos, was composed of taut, hard lines. The faces of revolutionaries. They were welcomed with all the fervor and festivity the other GPG cells could muster, backslaps and embraces, hearty helpings of hair, chiles, and beans, and plenty of pulque and tequila. After the first round of cheers and drinks, Arturo managed to pull Salvador aside to a quiet, less noisy corner, motioning to Pablo Gomez and his own brother Jacobo to join them under mesquite. Arturo smiled as a teacher to a star pupil. First, I want to congratulate you. You struck more blows for the working people of Chihuahua in several months than were dealt in the past 30 years. Secondly, I want to ask for your recommendation. From a combat perspective, where should the next blow fall? Salvador ripped off a chunk of tortilla, twiddling it between his forefinger and thumb before responding. We have the guerrillas now, and countless more would join if they could. Don't have the guns to arm them or enough ammo for even a tenth of Ibarra's goons. Sabadia Police Station is a place we can get both. He took a bite. Arturo took a breath. Police would be a step up from Ibarra's typical scum, but if he couldn't trust his foremost commander, wasn't capable of Che's boldness, he'll avoid a direct firefight. Go at night? Gaitan grinned. Next week's bounty of bullets and guns spoke for itself. Clever, I gotta say. I like it. Go back to my water. Obdulia had never flown before, and now she wasn't sure she ever would. All seemed so simple this summer. The travel agent had arranged a vacation that would be the envy of any woman in Jalisco. Quick jumped up the beaches and thermal baths in Nayarit, a stop in Ciudad de Mexico to experience the art and culture of the capital, and finally, relax listening to Son Jarocho in Veracruz, all connected by quick and convenient air travel. Sure, she'd read about some overcrowding of the country's airports, but who wouldn't want to go by plane when it was this affordable? Then the horror stories began to trickle out. A woman's arm was broken as a crowd surged forward at a packed airport in Monterrey. Shoddy wiring and a hastily built control tower in San Luis Potosi had seen multiple flights circling for an hour before diverting to other airports. One had to make an emergency landing in a field for lack of fuel. Two small planes had collided in Tulksta, killing all on board. This is Breaking Bad? Oh, I guess, yeah, it is. Right. But nothing had sunk in quite like the news that a jetliner landing on an undersized, out-of-date runway in Guadalajara had simply continued on into the terminal. Multiple gates were damaged and many injured. The airport, the very one she would have flown from and returned to, had been a death trap. They had to shut it down, of course. Many others across Mexico suffered a similar fate. Simply too hazardous to continue to operate. Good riddance, Obdulia thought. Had they left the ground, her dream vacation would have quickly become a nightmare. Man was never meant to fly. Well, that simulation decay is not nice at all, I gotta say. El Tapido is reminiscing on the past. Alright, let's keep going on. German invention in Africa. Oh, the Revolutionary Front versus Haiti itself. Well, this will be interesting to see what happens. Although it looks good for the revolutionaries so far. Guess we'll wait and see what ends up being taken away here. The balcony of Los Pinos usually offered Lopez Mateos a brief respite from his headaches, whether physical or political. Today, though, his hands gripped the ball olive straight as he watched a lone jet traverse the morning sky. Far too many other planes lay lifeless on the ground, victims of the airport crisis. Far worse for the lifeless Mexicans, the photos of the crash in Tuxtla. He breathed deeply, and with a dash of his old vigor. The president stepped back. He called a cabinet meeting, set up a new regulatory authority under Communications and Transportation to unify airport regulation, light a real fire under Buchanan's ass, get him to streamline and step up enforcement. But as he barked the orders to set up the meeting, the pain returned with vengeance. No, his aching head said. Let him do it. El Tapado. You don't have the time. You don't have the energy. You can't even think. Lopez Mateos closed his eyes. What could he do with a wretched mind and 1 month left? Could mandate safety inspections at each airport, hopefully prevent ever Tuxtla, another Guadalajara, at least for a while. You're running out of time. Some increase with stress of Lopez Mateos. I don't know what the stress mechanic is supposed to mean. I really don't. This one's going to pop up eventually. Right? Let's see what ended up happening. It went against perception. I guess that's actually not the worst thing that it could have taken away from. We're doing well on the construction. Let's do a needed reminder. While much of our attention has been rightfully captured by Puebla, we must take care not to let our other states fall into the same straits. Governors have been granted their vast powers to uphold stability, but many see their office only as a route of personal prestige and enrichment opportunities. We will hold them to account, remind them of the utmost importance of security and public harmony during election season. Governor Dupré Ceniceros will put down the workers' movements ravaging Durango, and Chihuahua's restive rural populace will be calmed. No governor will allow never Puebla or Guerrero. Or we will remind them of our complete power over the rest of their careers, up to dissolving their governments and holding them criminally responsible for their failures. I mean, I think that would work too. Diego Ortiz never thought he could feel power, not all of the governors at the very least. But here he is, as they move forward with the strength of a tsunami. The movement hits against the flood wall of a police station, each time they splash forward a call to release the political prisoners held inside its confines. The wall broke into an area and the water of their bodies flooded in. Military squadrons forced them back. First a step, then a meter, then running a kilometer as the flood came back to shore. Batons hit those who weren't fast enough, those who were thrown back from the firepower of the hoses towards the Autonomous University of Puebla. There, they would stay firm on the shoreline. Each room, each building, each section was fought for with the will of righteousness. Diego hurled his right fist forward towards the officer. Contact. The baton from his pier hurling down like lightning and boom! The fire truck slept, becoming the true embodiment of their name as the sight of their carcasses halted the baton. A yell came from a different direction, non-students, as their streams splashed against the wave of officers. He could see the havoc thrown by the non-students' grenades, and as they wreaked havoc with each boom. In turn, the officer ditched their batons and went for their weaponry. And in desperation, the tsunami crashed into the flood wall once more. Encircled pocket officers retreated into the Caroline Administration Building and fought just as soon instead, but the wall finally crumbled at the full weight of the movement. Their prize, Colonel Dominguez, along with a handful of police officers, captured. Hundreds of peers were arrested, dozens injured or killed, and they were pushed back from a quick glimpse of the window told him. Now, from protesting, he was a hostage taker. Those in the building knew their duty and steeled themselves for their mission. Jesus Christ, they're holding fucking hostages. Two food drives passed through the area, each recipient thankful for something to eat. It was strange to see elite cars for the peasantry. Well, care being stretched when they made sure to drill into their heads who made the food drives possible. None refused, however, even seemed like they were indebted to the elites and the politicians who drove by. A meal is a meal, especially to those in hunger. 4 new programs for voters, each offering an adequate amount of money alongside bread, flour, and other foodstuffs as a generous offer to voters who may otherwise stay at home. Unsurprisingly, the funded by section belonged to any number of candidates, from municipal to federal. Ordaz, Madrazo, Salinas' names were the ones spread around feverishly at times, over their being by food, pesos, or gossip. 6 unbelievable stacks of pesos at the governor's office, all to ensure that Aguascalientes knew who would be the best for the state and the country as a whole. The two men argued and debated while Jose Maria Morelos watched the two from his confined cell. He watched as the men finally shook hands and wept as he passed into another's hands once more. This was a nation that he had freed, but it was no longer the one that he had liberated. 8 more arrests. No one questioned the condition of new prisoners. No one ever did. They can whimper quietly at the unfairness to themselves. Once an officer passes by, they are reminded who sent them there with the injuries that they have on their body already. The station is quiet once more, and the officers walk away to handle the other matters at hand. They did not know whether or not they could survive another beating like before, but they did not want to know. 10 more days until Mexico's roads will be paved. Well, shoot. Above 80. Well, construction is over 80 at this point. Alright, so we'll get 70. We need to get above 80. So we'll get to 70 naturally here. Is there anything else that will give us... We'll get some perception, so that will get us up to 70? 75 here. Okay, and then selling El Tapado to the public, we'll be able to improve that, so that'll give us, I'm guessing, 2 tokens? I'm trying to figure out which to focus on more first. Whether we should do a last push to get... Channel Crisis. Oh boy. Even though it was still his cabinet shuffling their way into the room with stacks of papers to call on when they gave their reports, Mateos felt almost a stranger to them. Most were already... Oh wow. Most were already thinking into the next administration. He supposed he ought to start too. As soon as the whole of the cabinet had taken their seats, Mateos looked toward Ordaz. You have a report on the CCI? Correct, Your Excellency. Ordaz shuffled a few papers before he began. Following our victory in the election, which has secured us another supermajority, the CCI's momentum is beginning to crash. There have been reports of infighting in the MLN, particularly those that were upset at the way the CCI handled the election. Many are blaming General Cardenas for General Cardenas' leadership for the laws. So you would conclude that they pose no more threat to us? Mateos asked. I will not be so bold as to declare that, Your Excellency. Rather than simply watching and hoping they fall apart, I would suggest a more active approach. More active approach? Splinters are poised to form, but splinters can reform into a new threat. Now's the time to act. With DFS, we should arrest key members. In the press, we'll say the operation being carried out to secure Mexico from the influence of radicals on the left. We'll tell them Bolsheviks have infiltrated the MLN. In other words, we crush them while they're divided and weak, and we label it a security measure. Mateos nodded as he spoke. Clean and efficient, I like it. Give out the order. It will be done, Your Excellency. Well, how's that going, Cardenas? That's what I thought. Mateos had high hopes for Ordaz in the past. Of course, some of it eroded to his actions, losing the endorsement for president, but he was still capable of some things. So when he sent Ordaz to handle the AUP situation, Mateos was woefully surprised at the inadequate nature, or the not seem even related to the hard-working nature of Ordaz. Discussion of Ordaz cleared the clouds, and the man was preparing for the transition to power and wasn't capable of juggling both major tasks without neglecting one or the other. So it forced the hand of Mateos to assign someone else to take up the mantle of crisis upon him. Undersecretary Echeverria was the answer. The military approach had clearly failed with the capture of Colonel Dominguez, and what was needed was something forceful but also subtle. A mix of a DFS and proper hostage negotiations. In favor of the administration were two things he trusted Echeverria with, along with the promise of bringing the colonel back alive. His death was something that Mateos could ill afford. He won't let the president down. Will he? We cannot let the PRI win. By allowing ourselves to be split apart, we're only leaving ourselves more vulnerable. We must stand united if we have any hope of defeating the PRI. General, we have no hope of defeating the PRI. I wish you would finally see that. Before Cardenas could muster a reply, the line went dead. He held the phone against his cheek for a few moments, lost as to what to do next. Out on the street, some car honked its horn, rousing him from his stupor enough to put the phone down. He made his way over to the window and pushed aside his shades. Down below, cars were packed together as he waited impatiently for the light a dozen meters ahead of him to turn green. And at this benign sight, Cardenas felt himself calm. Even as the PRI continued to extend their reach into the ever-faster Mexican society, life went on. He one of those men and women driving their cars below had voted, and if they had, who they had voted for. More likely than not, they'd voted for the PRI. And in doing so, they had elected Madrazo as a man to lead the Mexican people through the rest of a decade. He knew that Madrazo was a firm believer in his manifesto for the party, especially given his track record as governor of Tabasco. Perhaps even the failure of MLN, his legacy might still have some purpose left to play in Mexican politics. Cardenas reached over to his desk and hit the button which summoned his secretary. Yes, General? Tell the others they can head home for the day. You included. There isn't anything more we can accomplish today. Come tomorrow. We continue the struggle. Well, alright. Should I go ahead? I'll get the 20 political power back. This might be a little silly, but I'm gonna make sure that we hold on to this point. Friends, Mexicans, children of God, Ignacio Gonzalez Goyaz took the podium to the fanfare of jubilant cries. He allowed himself a moment to wallow in the ecstasy of adoration, albeit keeping a neutral, resolute facade, as the men of the party, and the brutes, Los Tecos, the OCLT, their chief among them, had all hearkened upon the word of the supreme leader of the National Synarchist Union. Goyaz took another self-indulgent appraisal before beckoning silence with his tightened fists. Oh yeah, leading, but okay. Our nation is under siege. But from whom? I will tell you whom. The forces of Judeo-Bolshevism. The tyrants are destroying the Christian church. They are destroying our traditional way of life. Muted approval sounded out from the crowd. But what is to be done? I ask you this today. What is to be done? We must follow this legacy of Salvador Abascal, who has done so much to oppose the actions of international finance, Of course, Goyaz made it seem like Salvador Abascal Infante had died, but in truth he was very much alive. He, in fact, could not be bothered to go to Goyaz's crackpot rally. His supporters, none the wiser, waved feverishly. "We shall restore the Catholic social order. We will restore this country. One nation, under God." The rally more or less tapered off after Goyaz's keynote speech, and a few days later, the local papers reported on the rally, noting modest attendance. A couple of UNS's cadres wondered how many of them were police informants. The stain of fascism was not so easily rubbed. Dang that cycle, I didn't want that going. It's been said that one should never allow a good crisis to go to waste, and few familiar with Luis Echeverria are surprised by his acting on such instinct. Quickly arriving in Puebla, the undersecretary wasted no time in rallying counter-protest groups alongside Governor Castillo, who spearheaded the public response, allying with border morality and also Puebla state government. 95, holy shit. Across Puebla's streets, far-right counter-protesters are taking to the streets, backed by conservative and business-friendly groups, and numerous reports of violent clashes taking place between them and their opposition amongst the striking workers and students. For now, the boots on the ground are various locals, but the student movement is beginning to see support from the municipal governments and statewide pre-leadership. Caution is advised. While counter-protesters may be helpful to us, they are ill-disciplined, and the situation remains delicate. Public support is good. Mob violence is not. Let's hope Echeverria knows what he's doing. Let's work on those righteous few. In violent times, we must take the allies we can get, even if they oppose President Lopez Mateos and our revolution. Everything President Mateos and our revolution stands for. In Puebla, and an unfortunate amount of these United Mexican states, the PRI has found itself making common cause of the nation's reactionary right. Big business, conservative parental organizations, and rightist student organizations. While loathsome, they are quick to mobilize against the radical students and peasants filling our streets and fields, and allow us to avoid staining our own hands with blood. We will swallow our pride and dose of painkillers, and arrange surreptitious connections to Puebla's far right. We will be assured of free hand and tacit support so long as their hate is directed against our enemies. Okay. Ah, shit, there goes Jackie. Well, Jack. I don't know, but Jackie died as well. Happy to see their governor turned presidential successor back home again. The streets of Villahermosa, Tabasco, flooded with pre-supporters on the 3rd of July, as Madrazo and his wife made their well-publicized trip to the voting booths to cast their ballot. Drowning in a sea of reporters, camera flashes, and supporters chanting his name, the governor milked the moment, speaking with reporters and supporters alike. Who will you be reporting for? Who will you be voting for, Governor Madrazo? A reporter reached towards him with a microphone, to which he gleefully responded. Giving a look to his spouse next to him, she preemptively laughed in embarrassment. Why, none other than my wife, Graciela. Her choice in men inspires my confidence in her ability. After giving the crowd a good laugh, he cast his ballot for himself, posing with it for the cameras before calling to the crowd. Press, people, gather round. The nearby police anxiously observed the impromptu rally, but the momentum was unstoppable. People of Villahermosa, people of Tabasco. He put on a slightly more serious tone. I couldn't have gotten where I am today without your support. A dramatic pause follows. When the revolution we've been promised was revived when I am in office, the state of Tabasco and the beautiful city of Villahermosa shall not go forgotten. I have never been more proud to call this city my home. Roaring applause filled the streets outside the police polling place. It would be another 5 minutes before Madrazo and his wife made it back to the car through the crowd of supporters. The cyclone of the southeast goes national. Alright, another couple of days. In a neutral structure sat envoys of a hostage shaking. The protesters still holding up in the Carolina Administration Building, and in front of them sat the federal negotiator, Echeverria. Their overall behavior, the water slightly sloshing in the cup from someone's leg bouncing under the table, before trying to be as subtle as they gulped down their cup's content, can only be described as cagey. The water's been cut off, one of the envoys spoke up after finishing his cup. There's more government men coming through. We've seen them through the window, so don't even try to deny it. Relax. Echeverria straightened himself in his chair. I promise that the federal government only wishes for the best interest of everyone involved in this situation. The free envoys didn't buy it, he could tell. They would resist too much to be effectively negotiated with, at least at this stage. You could maybe slip a few men into the movement, make it tear itself apart, and gain leverage. Or Echeverria could stall the negotiations, at least until the counter-protesters could be assembled, both gaining leverage and ending the hostage situation if he pulled it off. The choice was his. I'm gonna save, because I don't know entirely where this will go. I think I'll go with, let's break the resolve from the inside. Let's see, Intelligentsia is very supportive of us. Always either rushing forward or retreating backwards, his life was a whirlwind of events, and now he here sits. It's been almost 20 years, but he can still remember it so clearly when he was trapped in that cell for the crime of attempting to clear a path for the revolution. His figure ached in muffled agony, taking in the newspaper once again to set aside the past for the upcoming feature. Carlos Alberto Madrazo Becerra wins. To the side of it was a slew of various letters from across the Prix, even one from His Excellency, all of them congratulating, all of them trying to make him realize that it was real, that it was happening. Sure, it was a guarantee that the Prix would win in a landslide, but now he could move forward. Start arranging the gears that would spin in motion in just a short few months. Where the revolution can be a beacon to all those who have lost their spirit over the years, but Madrazo knows a beacon will not just attract those who still believe in reform. The hounds of the opposition who will wish to douse a fire one final time will see the light as well, and rush towards it. They would be brutal, ruthless in their attacks, never letting Madrazo make a change without a cost. Well, Madrazo thought to himself, the power of the revolution will make them reconsider. The passion will be needed, not for the election, but for what follows. Is it going to be an average of over 5? Or, because we might get that naturally. Carrying a corpse, no matter how decorated it is on the outside, brings with it fleeting memories of a shattered pastime. Isidro Fabela was such a prolific man, able to accomplish so much in history, while Lopez Mateos merely observed it from the sidelines. But now here he is, carrying Fabela's coffin on his shoulders, with still so many questions left unanswered. Do I owe my career to this man? Of course I do, Mateos thinks. Fabela was his mentor, a shining brilliance which gave Mateos his first glance in Mexican politics. Political avenues of politics, that is. With figure, Fabela had earned himself various international and domestic political positions, once denouncing the moves of Germany. He left a legacy with a silent impact, his influence seen in many places, but perhaps no other person could idolize him like Lopez Mateos did. Each step forward, and echoed by funeral music, pierces into Lopez Mateos' thoughts. He would like to think optimistically. Could he surpass his mentor? Perhaps does the death of Isidro Fabela bring a colder meaning, with all Mateos' dreams silently passing away? Indeed, it seemed like the latter. The world gets emptier and colder with each old friend and comrade that falls, no matter how many new souls enter the political landscape. Isidro Fabela is lowered into his grave, and Lopez Mateos thinks again, no longer respecting his fallen comrade, but selfishly. The world has surely grown cold. The number of allies seems to dwindle and dwindle. Who is it among his current friends that would respect Lopez Mateos so dearly as to carry his coffin? Is there truly anyone out there? Yesterday at 8 p.m., His Excellency Adolfo Lopez Mateos announced Licenciado Carlos Alberto Madrazo as the victor of the 1964 election. With around 89% of the vote and 70% electoral turnout, the Institutional Revolutionary Party enters office with a strong mandate. The opposition is expected to concede this afternoon. Licenciado Madrazo plans to address his supporters in the federal district tomorrow afternoon, which will be televised throughout the nation. His goal of revitalizing the revolution of legacy of General Lázaro Cárdenas have been an inspiration to many. Officials and party members have sent their congratulations, including CTM General Secretary Fidel Velázquez, who announced that the workers across the weekend will receive an extended weekend in celebration. A testament to the people's revolutionary spirit. Javier wasn't sure what he was expecting. The student envoys sent to negotiate were hardly fit to speak in public, let alone make demands, and hot-headed children as they were, their demands were ludicrous. However, his disdain did not change the fact they were still dangerous radicals holding hostages. An outright assault was out of the question, but there were more than one way to break a strike, and two strategies began to form. The first was to weaken their support base, the dairy farmers. The size of the movement would work against it. Infiltrating its ranks would be as easy for the DFS. From there was merely a matter of whispering the right words to the right ears and convincing members to negotiate individually with the government. Shed of the masses for protection, the students will be vulnerable. Alternatively, there was the option to cripple the students' movement from within, convince less committed and ideological that their situation was hopeless, and turn them against the rest. Once the hostage shakers were suitably divided and disorganized, infiltrating the Carolina building would be more than feasible. Clasping his fingers together and closing his eyes, he weighed the risks and possibilities before deciding. And we are going to decide next time. I'm leaving it there like I'm leaving it there. It is getting late. I got work in the morning, and I already recorded a couple of parts, so I think we're getting good shape. Anyway, I'm going to go leave things there, but I thank you all for watching. My name has been Mr. Dogbot333. Like if you like, dislike if you didn't. Leaving comments, feedback down in the comment section below. Hit the sub on notification bell, keep updated with uploads as they come out. And check out my various links down in the description box below. That's going to be it for now, my friends. I thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye now.